My advice I would give to folks that are on a transformation journey is to work on your mindset. And if you have a mindset that's not a protective stance, that you let yourself be vulnerable and open and view change as good, you have to be vulnerable, get burned, and then let it go.
Welcome to AI to Z. Hosted by Airswift's Chief Revenue Officer, Anna Frazzetto, we delve into artificial intelligence, health tech, and more. Tune in and journey with us into the future.
Today we have Kara Pelecky, who's the CIO of American Bureau of Shipping. And before that, you were the CIO at Stanley Black & Decker. And prior to that, you were overseas for almost 7 years, which I know we're going to do a little bit of deeper dive with that experience. You talk about being highly experienced, accomplished global technology executive and business transformation specialist working in complex multicultural environments. There's so much that we can uncover, Kara, today, and I'm looking forward to our chat. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Anna. I'm very excited to be here.
Excellent. So why don't we just get started? Transformation, huge topic, and I have quite the question here for you. You have extensive experience with transformation, both personally, the fact that you relocated your family to the UAE for a period of time, and professionally leading organizations through IT transformation. You also navigated the challenges of being a female, rising to the C-suite, and an immigrant in a foreign country. So given this depth of experience, what advice can you offer the audience on handling significant transformations? I know there's so many different components to this question, but if you can, kind of share your thoughts.
Sure, I'd love to. So you described it well. And in fact, my first C-level role was that role when I moved my family across to the UAE. And I, took that jump and made that role change all at the same time. So all of those challenges and experiences of transformation were happening all at once, like a fire hose, as they say. And my advice I would give to folks that are on a transformation journey is to work on your mindset. And if you have a mindset that's not a protective stance, that you let yourself be vulnerable and open and view change as good and keep your brain wide open for a long period of time to all those new experiences, you have to be vulnerable. But you're gonna get burned. It's gonna happen again and again because you have to stay open and non-protective to handle that type of cultural change, role change, etc. You have to be vulnerable, get burned, and then let it go. And you have to keep at it again and again and again with that open mindset.
So, Kara, you hit on something that it almost feels like it goes against any, training that you have as you're kind of excelling in your career, to be open and be vulnerable and to kind of expose yourself where normally you kind of like, you don't want to show your feelings and, you're strong and you can handle the risk and you can kind of take control. So how did you balance that?
I have found myself over time to be really resilient, and resilient in a little bit of a different way than most experience it. And I've read before that resilience isn't avoiding a shock. It's not avoiding that challenge. It's recovery from that shock and taking some growth out of it. So that's what I have tried to do, is I've tried to make myself very comfortable operating in ambiguity. And part of that is I'm kind of a slow learner. If that makes any sense. I have to have a lot of context before I'm comfortable to, it's not that I'll hold back on making a decision. I will make decisions on some without information, but I really want a lot of context before I feel like I'm on solid ground, right? So that being able to operate in ambiguity allows me to stay really open to those differences that are going to come at me. It doesn't have to be showing your feelings or emotions so much. It's more about listening to others and trying to understand the context of the million individuals and perspectives that you've got around you and coming at you. If you can take that, then you can shape that ambiguity and you know what's going on.
I think that's the golden nugget. I think that's going to be like one of our takeaways is comfortable in ambiguity. I mean, I'm sure that that's going to generate a lot of buzz around that. So Kara, let's talk a little bit about your navigated significant cultural shifts between the U.S. and UAE and back again. How has this shaped your approach to business practice, equity challenges, gender imbalances, and of course, technology advancements like AI, which is top of mind for everybody today?
Sure. So as I think about this, I kind of want to tackle each of those topics individually. So like from a business practices perspective, this goes back to that statement about being operating ambiguity. In each of those cases, I was working in a completely different industry, a completely different culture, sometimes a different a different country. Right. And I had to be very curious. Most of the time I worked in very rigorous environments like nuclear power, extremely safety focused and a global perspective. Right. It was very important to me as I came back from that role that I had achieved something safe and successful for the world, right? I didn't want to be embarrassed telling you and others stories about my time there, right? We were building something, a capability from the ground up in a country that had never had nuclear power before. So I had to stay very curious, always viewing myself as having a lot to learn, and looking for mutual wins. That's in business practice space. Now in equity space, I had, as many do, a lot of pre-considerations of what life would be like in the UAE, right? It turned out it was not like that at all. I worked with many folks from maybe 50 or more different countries, although the largest groups were Americans, Emiratis, and Koreans, right? And going into that space, there are preconceptions of how a woman is going to be treated there, right? But as a woman there, and as this is true for my daughters as well, we were absolutely treated as experts. We were treated as experts. So we were held up, right? I would say not held down, right? Instead, I felt like I was on a pedestal. And that pedestal came with protection. And that protection, as an American, I would initially thought, I don't need this protection. I am fine. I'm fine on my own. But it was meant with kindness. Right? And when I started to understand that, and it changed the way that I worked in that environment, and use that to my advantage. Right, I'm being respected, and I am being held high. Right, I can use this as part of in that ambiguity to make more good things happen. So it was a very supported place to be. But that being said, I also saw a lot, the culture itself of a multicultural company. There were so many different cultures, and they often operated as islands. And when I saw that operating as islands, like Koreans often stayed together, South Africans often stayed together, et cetera, that was where I started to understand the definition of equity and inclusion, right? That wasn't as apparent when you only had a little bit of diversity. But when you had extensive diversity, it was very important that they had the ability to be islands, but also the ability to come together and not feel excluded. So we had a lot of cultural activities to make sure that we both supported separation and supported togetherness. That was really important. From a gender perspective, I talked about that a little bit already. I had some few challenges in Korea because I don't wear makeup. Right, I don't wear makeup at all, and they thought that was really unique. I stood out. I'm also 6 feet tall, so I stood out in Korea physically. Was very unique for me in my time there. And then last, in tech advancements, I think that some of the things that are going on in technology today are we have to, just like I said in my advice on transformation, we have to view those as the pie or the opportunity will get bigger. not as this is a threat. If we view these types of things as a threat, we will atrophy. We have to lean in, accept it as an opportunity, and take it as an opportunity. Even though we may not feel ready for these types of things, it is the better, more productive place and position to be.
Kara, such great insight. I just want to touch on the fact of, staying curious, right? That to me has been a valuable lesson. And especially being on the sales side of things, staying curious is how you constantly can learn and, develop relationships with clients and candidates and prospects. I mean, that's how you kind of build a foundation with different organizations. Also the fact of, having the flexibility, right, to be able to work in the different cultures. I think that's a great experience that you shared with us. The power of inclusion and how you can bring people together, but also be able to maintain their own cultural uniqueness and how they approach work. And last but not least, AI is a bigger pie. I love that. I think I'm going to steal that. I think that's a perfect way of describing it, because it's definitely the wave of the future, and it's just going to give us, it's a tool, and it's just going to enhance our abilities. One area that comes through in your journey so far is the power of resilience, right? I would like to ask the impact of AI on resilience. AI has the potential, right, to improve our preparedness for cyber attacks or natural disasters and more. However, what are some potential risks associated with this reliance? And how can we mitigate them to ensure true, resilience?
I think that resilience related to AI is best framed by how we measure risk. I think risk is something that's extremely influenced by culture, right? When I experienced risk and the view on risk, say in the UAE, it was often influenced by a sense of fate. Right? Do I need to take proactive action, or can I have faith in fate? While my time in Korea, risk was often measured by time. Is time linear or is time cyclical? So if you are influenced by risk, if your culture is influencing your risk, and I think AI will do that. I think AI will distort our measurement of risk. And we have to think about what is AI going to show us that's in front of us already and we aren't seeing, versus what kind of AI it will surprise us and show us new things or create new things. And so our resiliency will be in response to risk and how we use AI to measure and aid our responses to risk.
So Kara, building upon this discussion of potential risk and mitigation strategies when relying on AI for resilience, we can further explore the concepts of resilience within AI itself. How can we make AI systems more adaptable and robust in the face of changing environments and unexpected events?
I think we focus on learning. We focus on that open-mindedness and vulnerability. We resolve, in human terms, we sometimes call it the dream gap. We try to resolve the difference between what AI is ahead of us and what it could be by focusing on learning and understanding what it can do for us. We focus on what is in front of us that we aren't seeing, and we focus on what is new that could be created. And those two things, we can work together with AI to build its resiliency.
Well, that's fascinating. Kara, unfortunately, that kind of wraps up our session today. But if you were to leave the audience with one power word, what would it be?
I know exactly what word that would be. It would be my favorite Arabic word that I learned while living in the UAE, and that is mutafa'il, and it means optimism.
Oh, fantastic. Optimism. And that's something that we can apply to everything, right? Personal life in general, work. Optimism is the future of AI and technology. So all fantastic ways to kind of wrap it all together. Thank you so much, Kara.
Thank you. This was a pleasure.
Thanks for joining us on the AI to Z podcast with Anna Frazzetto. If you found value in today's episode, consider following for more insightful STEM discussions. We'll be back with another deep dive. Until then.